Bangkok is an amazing city to visit when travelling around Southeast Asia, but sometimes there are some things you really need to keep in mind. So these are the top 15 things to note before you travel to Bangkok in Thailand. If you don't already know who I am missing my partner today as he is at work, but we are a two-step start. We are a travel couple and we recently went around Thailand, as you might have seen some of our previous videos like this one and this one. We went to Bangkok, Chiang Mai, Pai and Koh Tao, with some of those videos still waiting to be uploaded. But let's start with what we wish we knew and what we wish other people would know getting ready to travel to Bangkok. When is the best time to travel to Bangkok? We actually visited Bangkok towards the end of August in 2024, which is usually in the off period of travel. We honestly didn't really have any problems, especially while in Bangkok. If you research online, it does recommend visiting Bangkok between November and roughly February to March. This would be due to less humidity and just kind of the city feels a bit nicer weather-wise to visit. It kind of depends on what you want from your trip and how important it is to visit during peak times or when the weather may be at its best. Being off-peak does bring its own perks, like potentially cheaper prices, areas being less busy, so when you want to go to these main attractions, maybe you won't be queuing as much and prices should be that bit lower. However, it's kind of what is most important to you when travelling. And do you value price? Do you value your time? Kind of the weather, all different things like that. We would say the city is actually a lot more flexible and maybe not as weather dependent. Again, that is kind of up to you. What is the currency in Bangkok? As Bangkok is part of Thailand, as you probably already know, in Bangkok the currency is Thai baht. At the moment, when I was doing my research for this video, £1 roughly was equivalent to 42 baht, €1 was roughly 35 baht, and $1 being about 34 baht. While travelling Bangkok, we actually chose to mainly use card. So wherever possible, we would use card, and our card of choice is Revolut. Revolut cards mean you can travel the world kind of internationally with no added fees when using your card. Please do bear in mind that in Bangkok you may need cash, especially if you're planning to visit markets, if you're planning on using tuk-tuks and things like this. It's not necessarily as simple as just using your card as you might do in places like London. So yeah, just be mindful. If you do want to use your card, do have some backup cash, but again, it isn't impossible to get around with a card. Basic language requirements. We love to travel, and as I'm sure you probably do if you're watching this video, we are aware you can't learn every language for every place you are going. It would be extremely difficult, maybe even impossible for some, but we do always encourage you learn the basics of any country you are visiting, just because it is really appreciated and kind of that little gesture does go a long way. For us, we mainly learn hello and thank you. A few other words we did pick up along the way, but Bangkok was actually at the start of our trip, so the little things we did pick up was more throughout the trip. But a lot of people do appreciate you using the language, and I think a lot of people realise that it does take that added bit of extra effort, and a little effort does normally go a long way. Typical scams in Bangkok. We did actually fall for a scam in Bangkok, sadly. We didn't realise we'd even fallen kind of to this scam until reflecting backwards, and actually a couple of days after. So I will explain what happened and then kind of go from there. Upon leaving our first hostel, we had gone to this crossing which kind of was going towards Khao San Road, and this woman started talking to us, and she was a local, and we're just kind of asking, what are we up to, where are we off, like what are we up to, where are we going, where are we from. She was telling us about herself, and it kind of seemed just like a genuine interaction, as we did have a very genuine interaction a few days prior. So upon speaking to her, we'd said about going to this temple, and she'd recommended visiting these other ones, and you can easily get a tuk-tuk to kind of take you about. And very conveniently, a tuk-tuk driver came up and offered a price to do this route, which she had communicated with him in Thai, and she'd said he's given you a very decent price, like I would recommend it if you're kind of up to it. And we went for it, and you might have seen the video. It was the birthday vlog, which I will link up here. Did we have a great trip visiting the temples? Yes, of course, we had a great time, but it did kind of get tarnished by the fact we realised we fell for a scam, and the reason we knew we'd kind of fallen for a scam was a couple of days later at that same crossing we saw the woman, and she kind of kept her head down, and she was basically looking for people to kind of cross the road with in the same situation as us, and she was loitering around basically the crossing. And looking back, it was upsetting, and we were upset with it, but we did have a great time. So it's kind of weighing up what you think there. It's just something to be mindful of. Of course, there will be other scams across Bangkok, and we're not going to go into every single one of them, but just be mindful of sometimes things, if it's all looking to be working out kind of magically, maybe it isn't coincidental. But on to a lighter note, transport in Bangkok. Whilst in Bangkok, we actually mostly relied on using Grabs, as they're really easy. We'd kind of go on the app, say we wanted to go to here, and we would get a driver come and pick us up. Very much a taxi service like Uber, which many people have used before. We did mostly plan our days in Bangkok via areas, so if this makes sense, Bangkok is a massive city. If you think kind of London's big, look at Bangkok in comparison, it is crazy. So for us, we planned our activities via areas of the city, so transport became a little bit cheaper because we're not dotting about from area to area. We would also recommend do go on a tuk-tuk and have that experience, because even if you're not using them regularly, they're fun, it's an experience. We got some photos in a tuk-tuk, and yeah, we would never say don't use them. Maybe they're not always the best value for money, but it's an experience. So you can get around Bangkok in a tuk-tuk, but maybe just not for the best value. Make sure to haggle when you are in Bangkok. Tourism prices are real wherever you go, let's be honest. One thing we do kind of keep as a rule for ourselves is that we need to be mindful when haggling, because that little difference for us could mean a lot more to the person on the receiving end. However, we would always say do probably haggle a bit, because tourism tax, it's real. They see us come in, we look like tourists. The prices are probably a lot higher than what they would give to a local. But do you blame them? Realistically, you miss all the chances you don't take. So we don't blame them. Carry a copy of your passport. If police stop you, you will likely need a copy of your passport with you at all times. We've never had this issue, but it is always better to be safer than sorry. We didn't actually carry a copy, we just took our passports around with us, which probably isn't the smartest, but kind of you live and you learn. Just make sure you do have a copy in case you run into any problems. Khao San Road. Now this is going to be a category on its own, as this is a massive tourism spot for Bangkok. Some people are really split on whether you should or if you need to visit Khao San Road. So for us, we stayed at the second hostel we stayed at was a hostel called Revolution by Khao San by the Bliss. We will link them below. Amazing hostel chain to check out. They're all across Thailand. This was literally right on Khao San Road, so for us we had to take the opportunity. We did actually have a night out on Khao San Road because of the hostel, so if you haven't already seen it, it's on our channel. Again, I will link it here. We saw SpongeBob in a nightclub, which take that as you want. I'll be honest, the prices are very high, it's very over commercialised, and it is very much a tourist trap, but it's fun. Very much, it is very fun. If you have seen the Hangover films, which are one of Jack's favourite and I've only recently just seen, which is Criminal, it is very much like kind of pictured, very imagine the lots of lights, lots of stimulation wherever you go. Dancers, music, street food, people walking around with bugs on sticks, like market stalls. Everywhere you look there is something, and it is so overstimulating, but it's insane. I would say it's worth it depending on what you enjoy. If you are open to kind of this type of experience, I would definitely recommend it. I think from a couple's perspective, it isn't Jack's cup of tea. For me, I really enjoyed the experience, but again, not everyone's going to enjoy it, so kind of keep that in mind as what your enjoyments and preferences are when travelling. If you're open to this, I would highly recommend it. Pack accordingly when visiting Bangkok. This is mostly pointed towards visiting temples, but when you want to visit Bangkok, a big part of Bangkok is the amazing temples on offer. However, a lot of these temples do have strict dress code rules, so please keep this in mind. Our top tip would be to pack trousers. For those who want to, maybe flowy skirts, long dresses. Your main things are covering your knees and your shoulders. So I think for some men you can get away with kind of longer shorts, but again, we would just recommend wear trousers, wear anything that's as long as possible. And yeah, as I said, you kind of need to cover your shoulders. So I'd just pack something long sleeve that's really light and airy, or maybe kind of a sarong, a cover up, something that you can pop over a top that you don't mind kind of wearing as a throwover, and make sure you're not wearing anything that is revealing. These are religious places and please be mindful of this when visiting. Don't just visit the trending spots. Now this sounds contradictory because I've just spoken about Khao San Road and tuk-tuks, kind of these very touristic things. If you do have limited time in Bangkok, we kind of appreciate it's hard not to visit the main things because you need to see what's most important to you, especially with limited time. However, like I just mentioned about Khao San Road, yes, it's a very popular spot, but it isn't for everyone. And some of our favourite things we did in Bangkok weren't actually the most popular places, so kind of do a little bit of research around what you want to do, what your interests are, what's popular, and maybe some like local insider tips. Apps to download for Bangkok. Grab, as I mentioned before, it's basically like Uber. It's very budget friendly, very easy to use. It's a simple app to download. We actually used this to get from the airport to our first hostel and it was so easy. We ended up meeting 2 people on the way and they split the bill with us. Google Translate. Now this one you actually need the app version and I will tell you exactly why. With the app you can actually scan in real life, so when you see menus that are in complete Thai, you don't know what they're saying, you can get the app out and scan it in Thai and it'll translate it to your chosen language. It just makes that language barrier that bit easier. Airalo/eSIM brands. We will link below the app that we actually used during this trip. eSIMs are a really easy way of getting internet access as soon as you land in the country. If I'm honest, one thing that we do as a couple, obviously it's helpful that we travel together, one of us will always have an eSIM downloaded ready for our travels, just because when you get to the airport you don't really know what troubles you're going to get into, and just having that easy internet access as soon as you land is very helpful. Google Maps, I have always used Apple Maps if I'm honest. Jack always tells me use Google Maps because Apple Maps aren't accurate. In Bangkok this becomes very true. We visited quite a few places that to begin with Apple Maps told us was completely somewhere else, and Google Maps was usually a lot more accurate, so if you need to bite the bullet, don't be stubborn with Apple Maps. We actually use this more for our trip leaving Bangkok, but Rome to Rio is a great app, and generally for any travels it will tell you the best way to get from A to B with different options, price options, etc. So for us, getting from Bangkok to Koh Tao, and we ended up going with a bus and a ferry, which for us was probably the easiest and most budget friendly option. Again, for our trip from Bangkok to Koh Tao we used 12Go, which is another app. Rome to Rio kind of told us the best ways to do it. 12Go was actually a bus chain across Asia, Southeast Asia. I'm pretty confident it's across quite a few countries, but 12Go is just a way of getting from A to B, and it's usually quite budget friendly, and there is also normally some different options. So for us, we went with the premium option going down to Koh Tao, and on the way back we had the normal option. So there's definitely room for what your preferences are on how luxury your travel is. What we recommend doing in Bangkok. We spent 4 days in total in Bangkok, and we would recommend doing the following. Definitely visit some temples. We visited Wat Ben, the Standing Buddha, and Wat Sa Ket. There is also some amazing unique cafes to visit, so I would highly recommend adding some of those to your list. Visit Boat Noodle Alley. We visited this place. It was amazing. It was very budget friendly and it was a great experience to have. Try some Michelin recommended restaurants. If you download the Michelin star app, you can search the location you're in and kind of what Michelin star level or what budget you want to go to. We visited one here. It was a great spot. I don't know if it was Michelin star exactly, but it was Michelin recommended. It was a beautiful meal, probably one of the best ones we had while in Thailand, and it was so budget friendly. Chak market, which is the big weekend market. It is so fun and we would highly recommend planning your trip across the weekend if you're visiting Bangkok. Across from Chak market is Bang Sue Junction, which is, imagine a thrift shop on steroids. It is huge. There's about 6-7 levels maybe of different like thrift shops options. There's handmade things, there's ornaments, there's just everything you can kind of imagine in one spot, so it's definitely worth it. And Icon Siam, again, this is more for shoppers. We didn't visit personally very much. We kind of walked through it as part of our boat trip because we had to take off from Icon Siam. Icon Siam was massive, and downstairs there's like a market style shop floor. We did walk through that and that was very cool, but there is so much to offer at Icon Siam, so definitely check out some of the bigger shopping outlets in Bangkok. Something else that I probably would recommend, but sadly we didn't actually get to do in the end, was visiting a rooftop terrace night bar. We wish we did, but we just didn't have time in the end. Make sure you are drinking plenty. Bangkok is so hot and humid, and as much as it sounds very silly, you need to make sure you are drinking lots. With all the walking and sweating you are doing in this city, you will quickly become dehydrated, and probably without even realising half the time. So yeah, in my sense, it might sound silly, but make sure you're drinking lots. Maybe throw in some electrolyte tablets when you can, just because your levels might go out of balance a tiny bit with the amount of sweating you will probably do. So it doesn't sound amazing, but just make sure you are keeping on top of your health. No, you cannot entirely badly review somewhere. Now, this is probably very highly unlikely. We didn't experience this ourselves, and amongst researching, some people say it's more hearsay, some people say it has happened. There is such a thing as defamation for a bad review. Realistically, I don't know how many people are actually wanting to leave reviews. So if you do want to leave them, maybe either leave them anonymously or just wait until you're out of the country. Let's be honest, it's probably highly unlikely, but again, it's very important. Better safe than sorry. And finally, our last thing to know before visiting Bangkok: learn some basic Thai or Buddhist rules. Realistically, we agree with this rule for wherever you go, but learn the local rules and laws, especially kind of social etiquette. Some of these might include how to behave inside of a temple, how to behave with and around monks, how to react with the national anthem, tipping, kind of all of these social etiquette things. If you don't know them, maybe you can get yourself in a bit of a tricky situation, and again, taking that little bit of extra time to understand the places you're going to, such as etiquette, maybe some language basics, it is highly, highly appreciated, and that little amount of time it took you to kind of learn, it will take you a lot further than just kind of getting yourself in positions where people aren't very happy with you for not abiding to simple local rules. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and I hope that it's helpful for your next trip to Bangkok. Again, if you did enjoy, please like and subscribe to our channel. We share all of our travel journeys, our travel tips, tricks, and kind of life as a travel couple. As you know, Jack isn't here today, but in most of our videos, he is here. We hope you enjoyed, and we hope this is helpful for your trip, and we shall see you in the next video.